Hey guys, what's up? This is Bharat, you're watching iGyaan, and Samsung recently launched a few phones in the Indian market in their so-called budget segment. Today we're going to be reviewing the new Samsung Galaxy A6 Plus and seeing whether it's going to be worth your money. So let's quickly get started. While the Galaxy A6 starts at 21,990, the Galaxy A6 Plus that we have here starts at 25,990. This is a metal-built phone with a unique design, and while Samsung says that this does have an infinity display and it does have an 18.5:9 aspect ratio, but it is in no way an infinity display, something similar to what you see on a Samsung Galaxy S9 or an S9 Plus. So therefore, all they're doing is giving you a sort of long aspect ratio, but not the kind of infinity display that you would get on their higher end devices. The back of the phone is also unique in several respects. It does have a dual camera setup that you would see on their newer devices. Also, the layout of the cameras is much like the Samsung Galaxy S9 and S9 Plus. You also have the fingerprint sensor sitting below the camera in an identical layout as that seen on the S9 or the S9 Plus. Also, you have the LED flash almost in the same location. What I don't like about the design is these hideous antenna lines that go across the back on the top as well as the bottom, and in an attempt to make the symmetry look better, the antenna lines in the center connect with the camera, which makes it look really awkward. The design, so to speak, is not the latest or the most modern design, and the phone is quite hefty, weighing in at a whopping 188 grams. This weight is actually more than the S9 Plus, which is the larger phone in their flagship segment. Samsung has added separate trays for SIM cards as well as micro SD cards, so you'll be able to pop in two SIM cards and simultaneously a micro SD card up to 256 GB. The front camera, a 24 megapixel f1.9 snapper, which is absolutely fantastic, and we're going to be checking that out in depth in this video as well. So before we get started with talking about the performance and the other aspects of the device, for those who don't know the specifications, let's quickly do a run through. So over at the front you get a 6-inch Super AMOLED display with a 2220 by 1080 pixel resolution. This gives it an 18.5:9 aspect ratio and a 411 pixel per inch pixel density. Now all the buttons are on screen despite there being a pretty hefty sized chin on the bottom of the device. The company continues to use micro USB for charging the device, which is also somewhat of a disappointment. You do continue to get a full 3.5mm headphone jack, which is pretty fantastic. The location of the speakerphone is next to the power button, and it may not interfere when you're playing games or watching videos, especially if you're holding the phone in a comfortable position. The audio might get disturbed if you hold the phone with your fingers in this manner. Now, like I mentioned, over at the front, you do have a 24 megapixel camera on the A6 Plus, whereas on the back, you'd get a 16 megapixel camera with an f1.6 aperture and a 5 megapixel secondary camera with an f1.9 aperture. This allows you to get live focus on the device. You also get a fingerprint sensor just below the cameras, and you also have a 3500 mAh power battery. Running everything is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 450, which is an octa-core 1.8 GHz CPU and a Adreno 506 GPU. Inside, 64 GB of storage and 4 GB of RAM. Now, since the device is running Qualcomm Snapdragon 450, which is quite a low-end processor, you shouldn't expect a lot of performance in terms of benchmark. So, as we expected, it gets a really low score of 70,000 on apps like Antutu, and even on Geekbench it gets a poor score of 749 on single as well as 3884 on multi-core tests, which leaves a lot to be desired from this phone in terms of performance and day-to-day usage. So if you're expecting to do high-end gaming or lots of multitasking on this device, think again. But there are a few saving graces on this device. It does run Android 8 out of the box finally, and it also comes with Samsung Experience 9, which makes this phone sort of up to date. But the problem with Samsung devices is that the next update will not come up until the Samsung Galaxy S10 is launched next year. So basically you'll be sitting on Android 8 and later versions of it until the company decides to launch a next big flagship. You also get Samsung Experience 9, which is basically what you see on the Galaxy S9. A little cut down version of that, so a lot of the processes and apps are not available, but most of the operating system looks identical to that. It's extremely fast and responsive despite being a really low-end processor. The device at first instance looks fast and responsive in day-to-day usage. Basic things like messaging, making phone calls, etc. seems to be responsive as well. So if you want to get by in day-to-day usage, the phone will work as a good smartphone. But if you're trying to get this for higher end things like gaming or multitasking, then definitely something that you want to keep your hands away from. Another saving grace for this device is the cameras. The cameras work really well, especially the live focus on the A6 Plus. You'll get really good depth effect, and of course you can control the background blur, which allows you to get a lot more detail in your images, and you can also control the way your images will finally look. What's also great about this is that you can adjust the background blur after the fact, which will allow you to change around the way the image looks. In case you added a lot of bokeh and in a later time decide to reduce the amount of blur in the background to get more information in the image. For video, the phone will capture a maximum of 1920 by 1080 at a price of 26,000. This seems really disappointing. Also, we don't find any sort of image stabilization, so the video quality comes out really shaky. The rear camera will capture a maximum of 16 megapixel shots, but that too at 4:3 aspect ratio. The minute you need to get a image at 16:9, you'll need to come down to 12 megapixels instead of the 16 megapixels of the sensor, because it'll crop out the sensor to give you a 16:9 aspect image. The camera app also gets additional features like Bixby Vision, which will allow you to translate text live using Google search. So things you've seen on the Galaxy S9 will be available on this device. Bixby Vision works relatively well, but not in India as much. So you can use it for basic things like translating and finding similar objects, but that's about it. Purchases and other things don't work really well in India yet. The front-facing camera is also pretty good with a 24 megapixel sensor. You also get front-facing selfie focus that allows you to get a good amount of bokeh in the background of your selfies. You also get a standard selfie mode, which is pretty wide angle camera in the front, giving you a lot of detail around you as well. And then you also have 1080p video for the front camera, which is again strange because at least at 26,000 rupees, we would have expected 2K video from the front facing camera, but we are not getting it. The phone in itself is also rather slippery, so I do recommend using it with a case. It's also quite heavy at 188 grams. It's quite a hefty phone, and you can feel the weight the minute you hold the phone in your hand. The display in itself is nice to look at. It's got great viewing angles. It's a Super AMOLED display, so the colors really pop and the black levels are really nice and low. And the display is nicely visible indoors as well as outdoors. The display corners are rounded to give it that premium look and feel, but you do have a massive forehead and a chin much larger that you see on the Samsung Galaxy S9 and S9 Plus. And unlike their real Infinity displays, this one does not curve to the side, so you do not have an edge on this. On the home screen, you also continue to get Bixby on the left. I would recommend disabling this because it sort of gets in the way, and I would recommend that you use the Google Assistant as your primary assistant. You can enable this by pressing and holding on the home button, and that will become your main assistant once you start using your voice commands. The phone does have face unlock and also has a really responsive fingerprint sensor. Face unlock, we've seen faster iterations of it. Also, it's not the more secure face unlock that you see on devices like the Galaxy S9 or the iPhone X for that matter, but it is a standard Android face unlock and it works pretty well. Again, in low light environments it will not work, so it is recommended that you also register a fingerprint. The fingerprint sensor is one of the fastest that we've seen. It's really responsive and it works really well. It is surprising that in 2018, Samsung has launched the A6 Plus at such a hefty price tag of 26,000 rupees with features that don't even compare with devices that are 10 to 15,000 rupees. So phones that are 10 to 15,000 rupees offer up more capability than this device. They're nicer to look at in my opinion, and they offer better features and better specifications. What Samsung is missing is the ultimate mix of performance and hardware, which this device does not seem to offer. It does have good cameras, a good display, but a poor design and poor specifications on the inside. You do get Android 8 and a pretty responsive operating system, but if you're expecting to do gaming or multitasking on this device, you should look somewhere else. The battery on this is a 3500 milliamp hour battery, and it'll last you a pretty good day with about 6 hours of screen on time is what we got from the phone. The Samsung Galaxy A6 Plus seems to be a good option for those who've been living under a rock and are not aware of the recent launches of devices. Some phones from last year may offer up better performance than this device, and it's definitely a poor letdown from the company. It's really well built, it's got a great display, but apart from that, it's got nothing else on the inside, and if you're looking for a good specification and performance monster, you have to look elsewhere. This was our quick review of the new Samsung Galaxy A6 Plus. If you have any questions or queries, drop them in the comment section below. If you haven't already, guys, hit that subscribe button and stay subscribed to Team iGyaan to get more reviews in a timely manner. Hit that bell notification icon as well. This has been Bharat Nagpal. I'll see you guys in the next one.